everyone. Welcome to Spotlight. My name is Crystal Coquel, and I have the honor of interviewing Charles Lindsey today.
Yes.
So,
Hi.
Charles, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Um, well, I am a father of four. That's one of my biggest accomplishments to date. I have my oldest son is 15 years old. I have a middle son who is 6, my daughter's 5, and I have another daughter who's 10 months. So Lynette and we had 3 kids in 5 years. It was a hell of a run. I like to tell people, but we're still working our way through it. And we kind of started over, obviously, because we got one kid in high school, and now we have another kid that we're changing diapers, and she's taking her first steps. And it has been a heck of a journey, being a father. And I think that one of the biggest determining, or really the biggest change within my life to date is just, I was a very young father. I'm 36 years old. My son is 15. So I had my first child at 20 years old. And it was a huge opportunity for me to mature and really just try and figure out life. But it's been a heck of a journey ever since. And part of what I wanted to discuss and part of the avenue that I want to go on is just really trying to be an impactful person for other people, especially within the youth, people coming up. But, I've always had a passion for inspiring people. I've always had a passion for trying to be a positive light within a lot of darkness in our society and our world. And, I think that being a father and having such responsibility and obligation, it has made it difficult for me to really chase my ambitions and goals. But I still, to this day, have not let go of what I feel like I've been put here to do, which is continue to interact, continue to be a positive light, and to continue to be a change leader within our world and community. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what I am really looking to do and where I'm looking to go.
So, what is something that's really inspiring that has gotten you here, and that will continue to drive and move you forward with this journey you're on?
Yeah, I think that for me, I just have had such a difficult upbringing. I've had a really challenging life. I've had a lot of obstacles I've had to overcome. And I think looking back on those things has really been the driving force for my ambition and passion, to try and leave a lasting impact and really talk to the kids that have experienced things that I experienced growing up, but also far worse. I mean, you can never really say like, oh, I had it worse than anybody else, but it is something that kind of builds you and kind of puts you together on who you are going to be. So I think that, my background and my experiences have really kind of been the driving force.
And what are some things that you can think of to help you to move forward with this and to, maybe be even more impactful with the kids? Or are you looking to get involved with schools or running, like I know we've just briefly mentioned before when we first met about maybe starting a podcast
Yeah.
or different things where you can make a bigger influence and touch maybe more lives than the ones that you're just
Yes,
surrounded by.
definitely. I think that's always been the struggle, honestly, trying to figure out which avenue to go down or what options are available, because there's always been, I guess I'm kind of the person that's like, there's lots of options, there's lots of avenues, there's lots of things you can do, there's lots of ideas that I have. And most people are like, well, you got to pick one and go with it, right? So I think to answer your question more directly, I think being doing podcasts, social media, trying to reach and touch as many people as possible is a huge opportunity. And today, that's where most people get their information. That's where most people are checking every single day. But prior to this, when I was in high school and just graduating from high school, when my oldest son was very young, I was actually professionally speaking. I was doing speaking engagements at colleges, at high schools, at teacher conventions. things of that nature, really speaking on my story, talking about where I came from, but also like some of the difficulties and challenges that I had in school as a result of my upbringing. So that was really impactful. That was really fun. And it was really something that kind of sparked the interest of like, wow, there's this whole avenue and space of activism and community outreach that is um, a positive thing. It's not really like disrupting. It's really trying to create positive change. So um, I'd love to get back into doing that too, but I
Yeah.
think, being sitting here and doing a podcast is a great way to reach even more people than an auditorium can fit.
Yeah, for sure. And what are you seeing the biggest challenges like in our community in the Eden Prairie area for the kids? What are you seeing for struggles and
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot that can be said about just society in general, especially within our community in Minnesota. I think that there's, obviously the political climate has been a huge driving wedge between people and communities. I think that there's a huge amount of tribalism, where
Mhm.
people pick sides, and if you're not with my group, then damn you, and we don't want nothing to do with you, and you should join our side or whatever it is. But I think also there's this undercurrent within I'm seeing in the youth that it's acceptable and it's okay for, you know, a lot of negativity. I see even within, sometimes I talk with my oldest son and he says, oh, my friends did this or friends did that, or, some of the things I see on social media, it's like, it's completely acceptable and it's completely okay that people are like trolls, like people want to poke fun at people, or people want to put negative comments on a photo or something, or people want to drag people down. And it's like, I don't think that's cool, number one. And number two, I just don't think it should be acceptable. I think that type of stuff should be shamed in my opinion, because if somebody's trying to do something positive, by posting a video or saying something, their opinion on something, why is it okay for people to come and try and drag them down and really try and, sometimes it's more of a hive that comes and people want to delete their video or whatever, and it's just like, I just want to be the anti-troll. That's something that I have down on some of my notes. It's like, if I'm going to create a category or a space that I want to carve out on the internet, that's something that I want to do, is being the anti-troll, like being positive. I every time I put a comment, I try to make sure it's got a positive spin, because I think there needs to be a lot more positivity out there.
do you think, and first off, I agree with you 100%. I think it's really easy for people to hide behind their typing or they
Exactly.
post anonymously,
Exactly.
whatever it is, and there's no accountability.
Zero.
I think the political environment is
Yes.
not great.
Yes.
I think coming out of the pandemic, everyone just feels a little more angry
Yeah,
right now,
definitely.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Everything just seems to be a little more
Yeah.
heightened.
Well, and also like the antisocial component of the pandemic
Mm-hmm.
has really created I think another barrier. This is something that I really have spoken to, and I would love to get some imagery behind this, but this is kind of my philosophy on that, where it's like, if you're a human being and you're standing in the middle of walls, I think there's at least 10 walls between me and you on labels that I have for myself that extend out from human being. So I'm a man, you're a woman. That's a wall. I'm Christian, you may be Catholic. That's another wall. I'm from here, you're from there. That's another wall. So like boom, 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 boom. It's like keeps going out and out and out. And it's like, I think the real truth that has to continue to get out there, and the real message is, we're closer, we're more similar than we are different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think regardless of where you're from, regardless of who you are, you do the same things that I do. You wake up in the morning, you have to get sleep, you have to eat, you brush your teeth. It's all the same stuff. And everybody wants to live a good life. So I think that there's way too many differences and barriers that try and keep us away from each other, when in reality, I say this all the time. We need each other more than people understand that we do. Because what is one of the worst penalties that can happen to a person? Solitary confinement. Like if you're in prison, you're already in trouble, you're already locked away. You're exiled from society. So how do they penalize you more? If you get in trouble within there, they put you in solitary confinement. What does that do to a person? It starts to really pull at their mental capacity, because we are human beings that are designed to connect with one another. Like that's at the fabric of who we are. We need other people, whether it be your family, whether it be your friends, whether it be whoever the group is that you want to be with. But we are people that need each other. And I think that that's the message that has to get out there much more than it is.
How do you think we help like today's youth versus how we grew up? You had to call your friends, you had to talk to your friends, you had to interact and socialize. And I think the kids nowadays have just, and it because of technology, right? Like, and then you throw in the pandemic, which also isolated. And I see these generations that are coming up, that are just so they don't know how to communicate.
It's true.
And they don't know how, they don't have that personal connection. And I think
Very true.
I think it's going to be, I mean, it's already a huge problem.
It is.
I think it's going to be even bigger.
It's true. Very true. And I think that's a great segue to some solutions to some of these issues. And for me, I kind of think it has to be somewhat of an educational series, or, like an ethics class rather, and I wouldn't say like you have to come into the classroom, but I think it is some skills that have to be taught. Because I think part of the problem with some of the parenting or some of the societal norms today is that we kind of expect them to get some of this stuff, but nobody's giving it to them. So how are they going to get it? Because they didn't experience the things that we experienced. And I think this is a very interesting point, because I'm thinking of a particular moment with my son. He was like 9 years old, my oldest son. And I was pushing him to go and talk to some of the neighbors, go and interact with some of the people. And I said, go knock on the door. That was like the hardest thing for him to do.
Yep.
He didn't want to do it, and he ended up not doing it. And that was a real profound moment for me, because I think that is the norm rather than being unique to him. I think, to your point, that more and more kids don't really know how to socialize face to face. And I think what I would like to do again is to educate people on some of these skills, like how to interact with people, how to conversate with people, how to get more personable instead of having more barriers and being withheld. And so I think, again, just like some kind of educational tool or courses, or even, social media, I think that's another lane. And I think to segue off of that too, I see that there's been a real difficulty with like interacting with the opposite sex. If you're trying to, court a girl or whatever the case may be, I think that that's another thing that is becoming more and more difficult for people to do. And I think it's just some educational things, some little tips and tricks, and some best practices on just socializing and communication.
I think in that regard, I think the parents need to be also educated on how these kids are raised differently, or the environment they're in.
Yes.
Because we don't know that. And so we take it all for granted. And how do the parents step back in this and help that education, right? Like, just don't leave it to a course or whatever, but the parents need to be also need to take a course on trying to help their kids.
Exactly.
So I have a 25-year-old and 23-year-old.
Okay.
And so they're kind of, that stuff didn't quite get in until they were like middle school, but you can still see it. And just even the talking, having to approach an adult, even at their ages, that was starting to become hard.
Yeah.
And I'm, like calling the doctor's office. Right? Like, they're like, isn't there something online I can schedule this? I think we should call to get the specific doctor and see when the openings are.
So everything but calling them is what.
Everything but call.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have one that'll call, and I have one that's like, I'm pretty sure it's online.
Wow.
And it's, also part of it is personality, but
Yeah.
I'm seeing that all the time with kids.
Very true.
So as we wrap up here, is there anything you want to reach out or just kind of finalize your final thoughts on the matter?
Well, I really appreciate, you interviewing me and talking through this. It's been really good. I felt like I got a lot of things out there that I want to get out there. And really, I think as I wrap up, I just think that, if there's anybody, out there that can help me, formulate and build a structure to some of these ideas that I have, to really start to pursue them and put in the work to create something that is obviously much bigger than me and is something that is going to be a real positive impact on the community and the world at large. And I think, again, like, I'm really just looking to help people and serve, be of service. And unfortunately, there's not always a lot of money within that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's just the truth of the matter. And, I think, creating something, money is going to be a byproduct rather than like, the main objective. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's such a joy to interview, and I just know you're going to do great things.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey, it's Will with the Podcast Crew team. Spotlight is a vidcast shot at the Podcast Crew Studios in Minneapolis. We would love for you to be our guest. Email us at the email address on your screen below to get a copy of the upcoming schedule. It's free, it's easy, and it's a great way to try out a podcast or a vidcast with our pro team. We do an in-person, in-studio version if you're in the Twin Cities area, and also an online version if you're somewhere else. We'd love to have you, hear your story, and help you start your podcast journey. Thanks. Get in touch today.